All right, welcome back to the In the Arena podcast, where we talk to people that have real lived experience and stories from the arena, not theory. So today we have, I'm just going to nickname him this. He's the Giant of Tampa Bay. He's the Goliath. So thanks for joining us today, Clark.
I appreciate it. I guess I'll take the Giant, the Goliath of Tampa. I mean, you know, I've heard worse. So.
I mean, you had to dip your head almost to walk through a normal doorway.
I did. And I've
How tall are you?
I am 6'5", and I'll tell you that as someone that's bought a lot of houses in Tampa and St. Pete, where you go through a lot of 1920s houses where the ceilings are like 6'2", and then they'll convert like
6'2",
and then they'll convert like the back porch that should never be converted, and it's like even lower. I've hit my head a few times on some ceiling fans. So,
that's actually why you started shaving your head.
Exactly. Yeah. There's nothing better than a bald head with a huge gouge in it, right?
Yeah,
so it's a good look.
That's awesome.
The ladies love it.
Yeah, Clark, dude, it's such a pleasure to have you here because you're somebody I've always looked up to ever since we met. First time we met, that house that we were trying to sell, you were like, bro, why would you sell it? Just keep it. Then I'm like, who is this guy? Why does he tell me what to do? And then the more I learned, the more I saw you in 2 years, of just seeing you networking events. Bro, I've really learned to look up to you. And then you even had me in your podcast, Burn Your Boats, which I kind of wanted to start this conversation with that because it somehow intertwines with our message within the arena, right? Burn Your Boats podcast. What is burning your boats? Where did that come from, and what does that mean to you?
Yeah, so I think it's something that we wanted to preface our podcast on Burn Your Boats because I think that we get comfortable, right? It's just human nature to get comfortable, to want to spend time with people that are kind of like-minded around you. And burn your boats means to literally go and look at every aspect of your life, right? We tended to talk a lot about real estate because we were real estate guys, but in all reality, as I went through the iterations of the podcast, it made me start to look at who do I spend my time with, right? What type of things am I investing in? Am I challenging myself through self-development, right? And being able to say, you know what, Clark, you're getting lazy. I'm getting content with everything. And whenever I get content, I get scared. I'm like, holy shit. I need to really take a step back and look at am I challenging myself enough? And I think that was the main premise of the podcast of burning your boats and making sure that you're always challenging yourself and not getting comfortable.
I love that. When I want to kind of ask you to clarify on when you say, when you get comfortable, you get scared. And the reason I want to ask that is that really how you feel? Because for me, when I get comfortable, I get comfortable.
Right.
And then I get scared because I get scared of what if I'd never progress? The fear isn't from the comfort. You know what I mean? I actually like it. It feels good.
Yeah, of course.
But the fear for me, it's well, what happens next? Is that kind of what it is? Or you actually just hate being comfortable?
No, I mean, I'll give you an example, in investing, right? For me, I fly very close to the sun with financials, right? So if I get 20 grand or 50 grand or 100 grand or whatever it is, I'm constantly wanting to reinvest that back into something because I'm fearful of it just sitting there, right? And so and it's how I've been my whole life, right? From this point of if I have extra money laying around and I don't have an immediate investment to put it back into, I'm looking at a rental property and saying, I should probably put a new roof on that, or I should probably update the kitchen that I've been waiting to do. And now I'm not saying that's the smartest thing I should be doing, but it's a fear of mine that I want to make sure that I'm always a little bit scared, because if I'm scared, it keeps me sharper and it keeps me wanting to learn more because I know that my runway isn't that long. And so I intentionally keep my runway very short so that I can stay motivated, essentially.
I love that.
Yeah, so I love that too, man, because that reminds me. So you read, Brene Brown. Brene Brown is she wrote a bunch of books. Okay. She's a top researcher in the world on shame and vulnerability and stuff like that. She wrote 5 books based on this quote.
Okay.
And one of the things she says, if courage is a value, it's a guarantee that you're going to get your ass kicked every once in a while.
Yeah.
So it sounds like when you say you're afraid, you get fearful when you get comfortable. It sounds like courage is a value. So you want to feel like you're stepping into your arena all the time and exercising courage, because I for one, I feel like I'm dying if I'm not doing that. And I fly near the sun myself.
Yeah.
And I'm maybe it's a trauma response, but it's the only way I feel like I'm alive.
Yeah. And I love that. And it's interesting because I've gone through kind of a change. I've gone through being kind of a full-time real estate guy where I was buying investment properties and fixing and flipping on an active level. That was my main day-to-day job. And I noticed that as I kind of evolved out of that, as a few things happened with the market and decided to kind of step away from that business model, is that I wasn't really in the arena anymore. And like, I was scared. I was like, what? Like people would say, what do you do, Clark? And I'm like, I don't even know what to tell you. I used to do this thing that I don't do anymore. Yeah. And so you tend to tie your identity to it, right? And so why I was not in the arena, and that's why I love the theme of this podcast. And I think that it's so timely right now because there's a lot of people not in the arena, right? They're sitting on the sidelines, they're sitting up in the third row, and they're watching, they're waiting, they're thinking things are going to get better, right? And so that really was tough for me to sit in the third row or the 15th row up by the bathroom somewhere. And so it was like, I have to get back in the arena because I was kind of comfortable, to your point, Kyle. And it's like, how do I get back on the field, start taking my swings at the plate and knowing that I'm probably going to fail, but the faster that I can fail, the quicker I can get to where I want to go.
Dude, I love that. I was just every morning while I'm getting ready before my day starts, I'm listening to some podcast.
Right.
And literally this morning, I forgot who the speaker was. He was talking about the emotions that starts change in your life. Number one was disgust. And that might not be like, not a very pretty word, but that's kind of like what you're saying. You're like, I'm disgusted of myself not progress. I'm disgusted of myself being in the same spot I was last year.
Right.
And I'm assuming that's what elicited you to go back into your arena, right?
Of course. I mean, it's someone that I pride myself on saying, hey, if someone said, well, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I'm a real estate investor. I buy X amount of houses per month or per year, whatever it is, right? And then, in 2023, I flipped 2 houses, right? Mm-hmm. So is that very prideful to be like, oh yeah, I flipped 2 houses when that's my main gig? Like that's almost embarrassing, right? and so if that's what I pride myself on and I have nothing to show for it, you kind of get disgusted with yourself, to your point. And so I knew that like I've got to get into the arena and do something quickly because I am basically kind of comfortable and I need to get uncomfortable. And when you're comfortable, you're not forcing yourself to learn new skill sets. And that's kind of an epiphany I've had is like, where can I go? Where can I focus my time, my energy, my talents to be able to level up my game, go to new skill sets, be the dumbest guy in the room, right? It's very humbling always. Always. I've sat in a lot of conferences lately where I was like the guy that literally was asking, the basic 101 questions. And as someone that, I'm 42 years old right now, right? And I might be asking a 33-year-old those types of questions, and it's humbling, but, who cares, right? Like, you've got to check your ego at the door.
Oh, always.
So that's kind of where
or the business will anyways.
Yeah.
It's either the business will or you check yourself.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Let me know if you resonate with this, because when I think about the fear is like you're in your kind of in your prime. You have a lot of experience. You've been successful at something. Is it kind of like future projecting the regret that you would have if you didn't get uncomfortable again? Because that's the way I think about it. If I'm like, oh man, I'm 30, I got all these partnerships and skill sets, and I'm single with no kids. If I don't take advantage of this time, 5 years from now, if it passes by, I'm gonna have to eat some real a shit pie.
It's funny. I was talking to someone in a mastermind group I'm in, and I think she was around my age, and she has 2 kids. And I said, wow, you started this. She has a really successful business, a home service business, and it was similar to my plumbing business. So we connected, right, on a lot of tools and strategy and things like that. And I go, God, how do you do it with 2 kids and you started this business in the last 2 years? And she goes, I don't know what I did with all the free time I didn't realize I had before kids. She goes, I should have started like 40 businesses. And it almost stuck with me like, you're right. Like I have a lot of time, and you hear a lot of it where it's like people that have kids, right? And they're entrepreneurs. And it's like, it forces you to be so much more structured, to time block, to be more focused with your energy instead of just like every 28 minutes getting on TikTok to scroll, right? Like you don't have that luxury anymore. And so it's interesting to hear. I don't have any kids, right? So I do have that time on the weekends to leisurely go to the gym for 2 hours and then go sit at a coffee shop and work for a few hours and go watch a football game. And so it kind of like it was a bit of a slap in the face to be like, Clark, you gotta wake your ass up. So
Clark, I feel like you just slapped me in the face by mentioning that. I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I wanted to go back in the first thing we talked about. Obviously, being in the arena is heavily tied to burning the boats, right? So for you, what boats did you have to burn, and what do you really like? Which boats are you trying to burn to take that next level into your arena? specifically? Is it people? Is it circumstances? What are you talking about?
Yes, yes, yes. I definitely think that there's a couple things, right? Mindset is number one, right? Like at the end of the day, people say, well, what's my biggest constraint to being more successful? By far, it's mindset. And mindset, in my opinion, especially talking about it on a podcast, is the least sexy thing because it's hard to quantify, right? Everyone's talking about, oh, I can't raise capital, or, I need to get a better deal. It's like, no. You don't have the right mindset. And we're all guilty of it, right? Like, so whenever we say that, but I think that basically forcing yourself, number one, to invest back in yourself through groups, through getting off your ass on a Thursday night and going to a meetup, buying your way. You have to buy your friends. Like that buying your friends is probably the number one epiphany that I had, is that, and not only are you buying your friends, but you're buying who's not in that room, right? So you're keeping out a lot of naysayers, your friends, your family, your support system that thinks it's too risky to do it, right? And so being able to buy your way into these rooms, because you may sit down at the coffee shop. And like I was at the coffee shop this morning and I talked to a group of guys that were big developers doing stuff in Florida, right? That was a great contact I made. But the chances of me sitting next to them again, I'd have to go to 58 more coffee shops to have that thing. Or I could just pay my way into a room where probably one out of every two guys or girls is going to be someone that helps me. So I think one of the epiphanies was I have to invest more into myself, right? That's the first thing, regardless of however you do in terms of your business. But then also too, I started looking at where I was at with flipping houses, for example. Like there's very few companies out there that flip houses that do it as a business. There's plenty of people that do it as a job, and it's a great paying job, and they're in the trenches every single day, right? And what I realized is that I had a great job, but I was never going to have a great business. And
because you were in it.
Because I was, of course I was in it.
You were in it.
I was nowhere near the top. I was in there cleaning toilets one day and, making executive decisions the next, and everything in between, right? And so I realized that what I was doing with my business was a job, and it was a good paying job, but it had a lot of stress and it was not scalable. And then I looked at it and said, okay, I'm buying rental properties, right? Great wealth builder to this day. What got me here won't get me there. So I'm so thankful that I bought that first shitty house in 2006, and then a slightly less shitty one in 2008. And then I started to get really smart, and then I bought really crappy houses because it looked good on a spreadsheet. And then fast forward 5-10 years later, that wasn't such the great investment. But I'm glad I did all that because it gave me all that experience. But what got me here won't get me there. I've talked to multiple people now that have said that once you get to like 30 or 40 single families, duplexes, whatever it is, that I noticed it because now it's starting to take up a hunk of my week, managing insurance, dealing with contractors, dealing with property managers that send me over bids on, like, I can't tell you how many times I've got a bid on like a new AC, and he's like, oh, it's going to be $6,000. And then I'd have to text 3 of my AC guys and I get a bid for $4,600 in like 10 minutes, right? And I'm like, no, we're not using your guy. We're using my guy to save money, right? But that takes time. It takes energy. Again, it's great that it got me to where I'm at in the experience, but it's not a scalable business. The last thing I want to do is own 100 single family houses. That sounds horrible.
Oh, dude, no way.
Terrible.
I mean, not that I got anywhere near that, but that's why I left residential. I'm like, it's tenants, toilets, and termites, and there's just issues on issues. And there's a golden era for each thing, right? Even like self-storage, like we're doing a self-storage site right now. It'll be the last one we do because we got that land at a great basis 2.5 years ago.
Yep.
And there's no way we'll find that basis again.
Right.
Like it's like, and there's too much inventory, but not talk too much about business. Also what I heard in there, have you ever heard of the book, The Big Leap?
No, I have not.
Great book. Please read it. Okay. So basically it talks about what's called the upper limit problem. And the upper limit problem is like when you're going to another goal, when you have the glass ceiling idea, you start to notice and observe yourself of like what you do when you meet the glass ceiling.
Right.
So do you like zone out? Do you go into a freeze response? Do you get irritated and like take it out on somebody? There's all these different ways it shows up.
Yeah.
So the book is really great on how to think about that. When you have awareness of it, then you can break through it.
Yeah.
And I've read that book now. I'm on my 3rd time.
Okay. Yeah. I'll have to check that out. I do think that I've hit the glass ceiling, and I've had to take a step back. One of the things that I'm appreciative though of what's kind of happened over the last 2 years, where I've hit kind of like a stall until when it was like the market kind of shut me. The market burned my boats. there's two things that burn my boats.
Burned mine too.
Well, there you
That's
go.
why I left residential.
Well, there you go. Is the market did via interest rates, right? Just very singular. And then the other thing too that I noticed is that in residential fix and flip and just in general rentals is that COVID, the minute that in 2019, I competed against you and everyone else in this room to go buy a house, right? And then COVID hit and everyone started working from their underwear on Zoom. And then they realized that if I can do this from a laptop and buy in my own city, maybe I can buy in other cities too. And so now I'm competing against the entire United States.
Wow.
And Tampa, Florida is a hot market, right? So a lot of people want to invest here. So it's like now my competition went way up and the rates went way up. But the great thing about it is that at least, although I bought a lot of, crappy single family houses and started to buy nicer ones over the last 5 years or so, but it has enabled me to essentially have, we say, I want financial freedom, I want freedom of time. I would add in another one, so you have a freedom of career. And by that, what I mean is I was able to sit down, take a step back, smell the roses and say, okay, my boats got burned in X industry. What do I want to do with my life? Like, what do I want to be when I grow up again, right? At 40 years old. And I didn't have to run and like freak out and like go take the first job opportunity or the first thing. And I was able to kind of dabble a little bit until I felt like, okay, this is where the fire hose is pointing. This is where I'm going to go without the emotional stress of like having to pay your bills, right? And so, having those at least pretty decent financial decisions when I was 22, 24 that started to compound on themselves, they enabled me to step back and smell the freaking roses so that I wasn't so stressed out to be like, I've got to go work for this, go back to a W-2. And so I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, that's a lot of what your podcast is around, is like achieving financial freedom, and as I listen to it, and it's so true, man. Like I don't know if you've listened to like the other parts of my kind of content. My whole life is built around buy your time back, and I'm in the process of doing so. I definitely haven't accomplished it. If anything, I'm stacking on. I'm like the other side of the tracks. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to launch every business I can think about right now with that matters. But it's all, that's why real estate's so powerful, but it also can bite you in the ass. And it's really simple in theory and it's hard in execution, like many things. But it's just it's really powerful for buying your time back. That's why I love to hear that you've achieved that, and you're courageous enough to say, I won't keep doing this thing.
Right.
Because most people they just stay in what they know, and that's another kind of fear response and comfortability versus jumping to something like, I would not, dude, running a plumbing business. I don't have those skill sets. Running an active service-based business like that.
There you go.
I mean, figuring it out though. I mean, iteration's the mother of all skill sets, of curating skill. But so what's that been like, since you burned your boats and got the plumbing business going? Has that been your arena moment, as we like to say here?
Yeah, it's funny. We had one of my favorite guests. His name is Devon Kennard. He was on our podcast. He used to play in the NFL, and he made a statement on our podcast, and he says that, yeah, sometimes you burn your boats, and sometimes your boats get burned for you. But if your boats get burned for you, it's not like it just happened all at once. And he goes, is that your boats get slowly burned over a period of maybe a year, 2 years, 3 years. You see it coming, you just don't want to see it, right? So a lot of people in real estate, right, or whatever you're in, whenever you get laid off, right? Like I'll give you an example. My brother works for Amazon Web Services, right? And you hear all the layoffs and all the NVIDIA and all the different tech companies, right? And I know that he's looking over his shoulder right now. And if he were to get laid off tomorrow, you could say his boats got burned by Amazon Web Services, but in all reality, he's been fighting that for the last 18 months, right? So I think that we can see it coming. We just have to figure out if we choose to be aware of it, or if we just want to continue to say, oh, the market's changing, but I'll keep putting this square peg into the round hole. And that's something that I didn't want to do. So I do feel good that we started to see a change in the market, and we're like, all right, I've got to pivot, or at least stop banging the square peg into the round hole, because you're adding risk and more risk and more risk, and the reward keeps going down and down for that amount of risk you're adding.
I love that. I think that's very timely for me to hear. Clark, I want to take you back a little bit, because we're talking about your arena now, right? Getting into the plumbing business from investing in real estate prior. But take us back to your first ever arena. Like, how did you become the Clark you are today? For me, just an example of like the context of my question. In the first episode, we spoke about my first arena was just a high school kid getting bullied, and I went into voluntarily put myself in an arena of pain and reps and late nights working out, reading articles. And that was the first time I actually stepped into my arena, and it slowly developed the person I am today. For you, what was that starting? Because there was no way you were as confident as you are now.
Right.
Because it requires confidence to go from, hey, I was really good at real estate, but hey, forget it. I've proven to myself I can make things happen. I'm going into plumbing. Like you said, I don't know shit about it, but I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah.
But that confidence to take that leap doesn't just naturally come, or I don't know. People could argue with me. I think it's not natural. I think it's built over time. So what was that first time you started building that confidence? What was your first arena?
First arena was probably walking through doorways.
Yeah, it was. Hey, man, a little clap for that. I'll go back to like kind of what I was saying earlier. It's funny. I've never approached this question from that way, but like putting myself in positions where it's uncomfortable. And I'll give you an example. So I was in high school, and I was on a basketball trip, right? And so it was the last game of the year, and I was a senior, and we brought alcohol on the bus, right? And we got busted, right? And so we literally like last game of the year, senior year, we lost. We were not any good, right? So like, we're gonna get some beer or whatever it was, and someone told on us, right? So I walk in on Monday morning, and they're like, "Hey, we know what you did, blah blah blah," and it kind of was like a little mini scandal in high school. So I remember when we went to the end of the year basketball party, right? All the parents knew. There was only 3 of us that actually like took the fall for it, and I remember that everyone, the coach stood up and did a speech, and the assistant coach, and I was the only one. And I decided to go up there and do a speech in front of all the parents, with shame hanging all over me. And the reason that I did it is because, I made a mistake, but I wanted to own up to it. But it also forced me to stand up in a super awkward position, no different than having to fire an employee or have a super difficult discussion with a client when you've got to ask them for more money, and you told them that there wasn't going to be a change order. Then there was, and it was unforeseen. And so I don't know why, but I felt like at an earlier age, I liked to force myself to be in front of rooms where I could have discussions, whether it's because I got suspended because we drank on a bus on the last game of the year. And then going into college, I took a lot of like public speaking stuff. Again, like it's
great.
You're speaking in front of 40 people or 100 people or whatever, some big college. I don't care what you're even talking about, but the more that you do it, to your point, Kyle, it just gets easier. Like it doesn't get easier, but you just get more used to it. And it's like anything in life, right? Like I didn't know anything about plumbing, right? But I did know that a business thrives. It can't thrive without one thing, and that's called a lead. Okay, that's called business. And I was like, okay, can I figure out how to drive leads to a business? Number one, I don't need to be a plumbing expert, but all I know is that I could be a plumbing expert. I could have the best plumber ever that's going to go out there. But if the phone doesn't ring, it doesn't freaking matter, right? It's like, all right, step 1, figure out how to get the phone to ring, right? Step 2, once the phone starts to ring, guess what? I'm going to answer those phones. I don't want to give it to a virtual assistant. I don't want to give it to a secretary. I want to take every call because I want to understand the avatar of my client. Are they nice? Are they price sensitive? Is it urgent? Do I need to be there in 12 minutes or can I come tomorrow? And then now as I'm starting to learn the avatar of my client, I can determine whether I even want to go after that client or do I want to go after commercial instead of like residential, right? And so it's just step by step being in the trenches. So I don't know, hopefully that answers your question.
That's amazing. Before I hand it off to Corey, I just to ask to build deeper into that. You said you don't know where it came from. Since you were a kid, you were putting yourself in these uncomfortable situations. But if you had to say, where does that outlook come from? Is it parents, grandparents?
Yeah, was it modeled for you as a young age?
Yeah, that's what it has to come from something because that's not normal.
Because one of the main premises of this podcast is like, rather than like regurgitated bullshit self-development stuff,
right?
If you hear someone's story about an example of when they had to be courageous, that is how I learn the best. Just like a son models a father.
Yeah.
Like they don't listen to what you say; they watch what you do. So.
Yeah.
Like, did anyone model it for you?
Yeah. I mean, I could take a step back further, and like growing up, I played soccer. Okay. Yeah. And so I would be playing in the soccer game. My parents would always come to my games, which was great. And they were great parents, and they still are. And I remember I'd be out there playing, and I'd get comfortable, and I'd hear from the sidelines, my dad would start yelling at me like over everybody. And he's like, Clark, get off your ass, like get down the field, like you're moping, right? And so I feel like that may have been part of it, to be like, I've got my dad yelling at me saying, Clark, you're too comfortable. You need to make something happen. And, you know, it's kind of like, it's one of my favorite scenes from Wolf of Wall Street, where he's like, you know, Leo DiCaprio's like, you're broke, you're missing your mortgage payment, you know, get on the phone, right? Your girlfriend's mad at you, make the call, right? And I feel like it's the same thing of like, if you're down, if things aren't going your way, you can sulk, you can talk to people about it, but at the end of the day, the only thing that's probably going to dig you out of that situation is to just take action. And it's probably the action that you don't want to do. Like, I don't want to go make 10 cold calls today or whatever that may be. But we all know the answer, how to dig your ass out of a problem, right? But, you know, sometimes you need someone to yell at you and throw rocks at you to kind of get you off your ass.
It's good it's good to invigorate too. It reminds me of the quotes on Chris Williamson's podcast, is the pleasure you seek is in the work you're avoiding.
Yeah. Amen.
And I'm like, the deepest truth, man.
So
it's just
good.
like, just iterate and get through it, you know? And it's like that, and that's the premise. Like life is only lived in the arena.
Yeah.
If you watch from the stands, I don't know how you're surviving anyways, but like if it could be an example of a W-2. No shame on W-2, but it's just an example, a fixed thing. You show up at work every day. You know inside that you're not testing yourself.
Right.
Maybe you're not even testing your body,
Right.
you know? And it's just like, it's only lived in you figure out the next step by taking the first one.
Yeah.
And so I just love hearing that.
I thought, you know, what's interesting about the W-2 is that everyone presents the W-2 as a safe kind of route. And I think that what's interesting is, as I've noticed, I thought that like once you hit the age of like 50, your value started to go down. Maybe you weren't up with like all the new technology and everything. And what I've noticed at being at 42 with a lot of my friends being around the same age group is like they're getting laid off, you know, and they've got the 26-year-old that's going to make 2/3 of what they make. And, you know, they're happy. They're saying, thank you for that 2/3 salary. I will work harder than the 42-year-old that's married with 2 kids because I am, you know, single and I will work to 9 o'clock at night. And so
leveraging AI to make it easier.
You mentioned like I'm in my prime, and I think being in a corporate setting, I think that 36, 37, 38, you may be peaking and you may start going over the hill. So if you talk to anyone that is, I guarantee you, if you talk to someone that's 41 years old right now and they've been in their company for 8 years and they've won all these accolades and things like that, I bet you that they're starting to look over their shoulder being like, who's going to come take my job? And then now it's kind of like, you have to go out and find another job, right? Are you over, are they going to come and say, wait a second, you're applying for this job and you've got all these accolades?
Brother,
and then
there's a guy, there's a story of that, man. It's the harshest example I've seen yet. This guy, I can't remember the company. So there's a guy in my church group. We meet up every Monday. And I won't say his name, obviously, but he was a CEO of a publicly traded company for I think it was almost 20 years. And he is now driving Uber, barely able to pay his bills. And he's driving Ubers around.
And how old is he?
Oh, dude, he's like high 60s.
Okay.
Maybe. Yeah. But, and it's one of the saddest things. I mean, his faith is growing, and he's so authentic.
Sure.
I mean, I would love nothing more than just like to cut that dude a fat check or something, you know, as a gift. But it was heartbreaking to see. And I've watched my dad. It happened to my dad too. I mean, he was running, Fortune 500 company like stores, and he finally, quit because he thought he was going to basically die if he kept going. He's doing lows, and lost all the money in the stock market, and then had to go get a job. And they were like, "Dude, you're way overqualified for this." He had to go from like $200,000 a year with like $100,000 plus bonuses to like $75,000 a year, getting buried by alimony and child support. And I was like, damn, it can happen like that. What
I love about what Clark said is that when you said, he kind of called us out on it. You're like, hey, when you said he's in his prime, I was like, yeah, dude, 40s is like the prime time for men. Like that's when they, not to bring female and male dynamics, but they always say scientifically, right? Women's at their highest peak value in their younger age. Men, we peak in our mid 30s to late 40s, right? But you brought up a great point, which we don't think about because our circle is full of entrepreneurs or very successful W-2 executives. And we're just like, hey, we're just getting better and better and better.
Right.
And I never thought of that. We are blessed to have such a good, strong men surrounding us. But in reality, that's still, we're the minority. And
Yeah.
you have that perspective somehow, right? Because I guess you have the friends that are
Right.
seeing it. And I never thought of that. And when that is happening to, let's say, a man in their 40s, based on what you've seen, how do they dig themselves out of that, I guess, shame of like I guess my value went down when I'm at
It
my
is.
40s? Like,
Yeah.
how do people get out? How would you say that? How do
Well,
you get back into the arena when
Yeah.
you've worked
Yeah.
your whole career for 20 years in a company and they're like, nope, you're out?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the $1 million question, and I think that's why it's so important to be able to start when you're in your 20s, right? Like when you start taking more risks, and because that essentially being in the arena is a risk, right? It's comfortable to just sit on the third row, and so that is something that is. I think again, I'll start back and I'll say, look, if you're in your 40s, because I see guys that are in the masterminds I'm in, and they're coming, they got burned out from their job and whatever it is, and they're now 45 or 50 years old. I think the first thing you have to do is you have to stop hanging out with all the people you've done the whole time that you've made it to 47 years old.
True.
Because if you were hanging out with different people when you were 37 years old, you probably wouldn't be where you're at 47, right? So it doesn't, there's nothing that, who, not how, right? I love Who, Not How. I've read that book multiple times now.
So good.
And like, I look at me getting into plumbing. I didn't get into plumbing because I wanted to own a plumbing business. I found someone that showed me an idea of how to run a plumbing business where they could give me leads. And I was like, okay, I get lead generation, and I can see the pathway forward. And I don't think AI is gonna be able to fix your faucet anytime soon. And I can do a lot of the things from a laptop, right? Bingo, that's where I'm gonna go. And then I'm gonna constantly be going back to that person that's kind of mentoring me to keep asking them, okay, I went from level 1 to level 2. Now what? Level 2 to level 3. So I would say that for the 47-year-old or the 51-year-old that had their boats burned and they're now looking at being too overqualified to go across the street and get the next W-2 job, the first thing you have to do is change who you surround yourself with. And you got to go invest in yourself, go stroke a check for $5,000 or $10,000 or whatever it's going to be to get in those rooms, and figure out what the other guys are doing to be able to hook on, to find a partner, to find someone. Even if you go, I look at it differently in terms of like, even if you work for a big corporate entity, if you were to go work for like a smaller startup or someone where you have direct line of communication to the CEO or the COO, you're going to be able to pick their brain every single day. You're going to have to wear multiple hats. You're going to gain more skill sets than just being that singular position you are in sales or marketing, where you don't have to worry about payroll when you're in marketing. If you're able to work for those smaller companies, I still feel like that's a much step closer to being in to own your own business. But you've got to change your network, and you're going to have to write a check, unfortunately.
Dude,
I couldn't agree more.
That reminds me of a very impactful conversation I had. A friend of mine named Tomo. I don't know if you guys either have met him. He's one of the owners of Goliath Ventures, actually. Anyways,
never been in
I
Vertical.
worked for him, and he owns hormone clinics in Orlando, and now he opened one up in Dubai, different states.
Cool.
Yeah, but
Rad.
when I met him, he was a police officer.
Yeah.
Crazy. Took him 4 years to become an 8-figure entrepreneur. And I'm
Wow.
like, dude, that is not normal.
No.
So I asked him, after 3 years, I saw him again, we caught up, and I'm like, dude, I just have to ask, what was the turning point? How'd you go from a police officer to an 8-figure entrepreneur? He was like, he looked at me, we were smoking cigars that night. He was like, bro, cigars in this place. We were in London House in Orlando. It's
Yeah.
$26K a year to be a member there.
There you go.
And he was like, dude, I was like $300K in debt. I ended up trading my crappy car to a Porsche Panamera
Wow.
just to fit the look, but
Yeah,
it was still
right.
affordable enough.
Yeah.
And he was like, I was the guy in London House giving cigars to everyone. And he was like, ever since then, the people I met just
Oh, I
changed.
love that story. We gotta get him on.
Dude, we need to get him on.
That's
Yeah,
I
we
love
will.
that.
Yeah.
Because that's a gamble.
He's another tall guy, another giant too.
There you go.
yeah.
Just
We're
these
probably,
tall guys,
we're probably
bro.
related, right?
I'm like vertically challenged, so I need to keep up with
Okay,
these
if your
guys.
feet are dangling.
Whoa.
They can't see it. Keep those cameras up. Don't let them droop down.
Yeah, but I love that, man. Thank you for sharing that.
I also think it's there's something about, we use the word shame a couple times. So Brene Brown says she's top researcher in the world on this. So shame is like I did something bad, and guilt guilt is something I did something bad. Shame is I am bad.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, man, those like men that are providing for their family, they have to go do something real humbling, like drive Uber.
Right.
There's a lot of shame, and they don't want to go. I've been going in the mix of networking events since I was 19, just throwing myself in the mix. It's really easy, but I recognize that skill set. If you're coming out of corporate, it's a lot of like, well, what are you doing right now?
Right.
It's really hard to be humbled and have a beginner's mindset. They first have to like have this forgiveness practice, of like forgiving themselves for that, so they can actually have permission to go move forward.
Yeah.
Because that's the upper limit.
Yeah.
That's the upper limit problem that they're going to hit.
I think in being consistent and just coming into a plan and saying, okay, I can start to feel my boats getting burned, right? I'm in this job that may or may not lay me off tomorrow or 6 months from now, and saying, okay, if I'm going to start showing up and I'm going to start asking people, what do you do? And then trying to figure out, okay, I'm just curious, what are your pain points? Like what's in your business that isn't going well? And just take notes, right? And then being able to potentially go back to them and trying to provide value in some way, not having your hand out saying, hey, how much will you pay me? But being able to do that is the quickest way. Because I see, especially younger people in probably their mid-20s, to being able to say, hey, I've done some research on you. I see that you own XYZ company. I did some more research, and I see that you could probably rank higher in Google, or I noticed some analytics on Google that about your Google My Business profile, it's missing this and this. Would you mind if I went in and gave you some ideas, right? Just anything to be able to provide value. And at the end of the day, you may only spend a couple hours, right? Like it's not like you're working 40 hours a week for free. You're not running a charity here, but it takes that kind of humbleness to take a step back to be able to see where can I provide value. But going up to someone and saying, hey, Corey, what company you have XYZ company, can I provide you some value? Well, that now you have to work. Now you have to sit down. But it's like, if I'm just like, oh, that's really cool. I noticed that you've been around for X amount of time. You guys are acquiring self-storage, or you're acquiring triple net type stuff. I'm just curious, what's stopping you from getting to the next level, which is then me just asking you about, what's going on in your world, being empathetic. The How to Win Friends and Influence People is one of my favorite books, even though it's old and it makes a bunch of old references that none of us understand, but it's such a classic book to making sure that, it's not about me and what I need from you, but it's like, where can I bring you value? But I don't need you to do all the homework. Let me do some homework first, and then let's ask you the question like that. So,
dude, that is so powerful, because there's this quote, and I want to share it with you. I'm sure maybe you've heard it before. If you can't sit on the table, serve the table.
There you go.
Right.
Oh, that's good.
That's good.
You guys are king of the quotes over here, man.
I speak with so many people like you, man. So I'm going to be quoting you in the next one. But do you have a story where you had to serve the table because you couldn't sit in it?
Wow. Where I had to serve the table. I would say that where I had to serve the table is when I first got in. My family owned a window and door business. Okay,
like selling windows and doors.
Yeah. Okay, so it's like
Good background.
So that's what I did. I sold windows and doors for 8 years before I got into real estate.
Sales,
so
man.
Sales is I love sales. Like I'll talk about sales all. I mean, I just sit here and read Chris Voss Never Split the Difference like word by word for the next like 2 iterations. But the thing that I learned is that about serving the table is that I was there for 10 years, but the first 2 years, I wanted to jump right into sales, because sales guys made the most money, and you're not blue collar driving in a box truck at 6 a.m. And for a year, I installed windows, and then for a year, I measured windows. I ran the service department. I knocked doors for 6 months, going around to say, hey, we're next door installing Mrs. Smith's windows. Do you want windows, right? And I learned so much from serving the table and being able to. So when I walked in the door as a salesperson in 2008, I felt like I could run circles around my competition and even the people inside the sales room that worked for our company, because I was the only one that had actually been out there hammering stuff in. So I could point things out and saying, oh, you have this, but I've done this before, and I know that you can't do it for this reason, or you may want to think about an ulterior idea. So I owe that to my dad, because there's no way he was letting me walk into sales, into his company. And also too, I think he wanted to show the rest of the company that there wasn't nepotism, right? Where he just sent the owner's son in I didn't like it at the time. I was like, because I was waking up at the office every morning at 6 p.m. or 6 a.m. loading these heavy impact rated windows. It was not a lot of fun, but the experience that I gained from it set me up to be so much more successful. And then also too, the installers and everyone else in our company had so much more respect for me because I went through that.
I think that's how the best CEOs are made.
Yeah.
Like I had a guy named Brandon Clymer here, and he was like a project manager on site, but now he's got like $1 billion design build firm, and he had to fire like one of the project managers, and he put on a hard hat and was like, "No, I'm here," and they're like, "Well, what are you doing here?" And he's like, "I'm going to show you. I can do this."
Yeah.
So I think the humility that you're talking about is the lost art form of our generation.
There you go.
And it is like the number one thing, like, if I want my life to stand for anything, it's the humility gets you everywhere.
Yeah.
There's any bit of my life has been attributed to humility.
Yeah.
And it's just willing, and it's also the self-awareness. So the self-awareness of like, you know where you're at and you know what is valuable to the other person and where you fit into that. And that's how you can have the intelligence, like, you know, to look up what's valuable to them before. And the social intelligence, like everybody asks that guy for coffee.
Right.
And there's levels to that game.
Yeah.
You know, and now I find the highest people, they just want to have fun.
Yeah.
So you got to find a way in the door with humor and value combined to really get the high end ones, because they've already achieved it. So
Right.
what do they want? They want novelty.
Right.
And it's an art form for that, man. I want everyone to be humble and willing to do that.
Since you guys like to quote a lot of books, one of the most impactful books that I've ever read is called Emotional Intelligence 2.0. And it's a really, really good book to be able to understand how to take a step back and look around and, you know, look at life through everyone else's, you know, point of view. It's more of like an empathetic type of way. It's also being able to take a step back and count to 10. I know I'm just like making a very, very simplistic view, but if you've ever thought about all the times where you want to respond back to that email really fast. Like, I just had an inspection report come back on a house I'm selling, and they wanted all these things. And I literally told them from the beginning, I said, I'm not doing any repairs. So if you want to move forward with this, that's fine. But I'm not going to make this a brand new house when you're only spending $200,000 on it. And of course, what do? Exactly what I told them not to do. And so I literally, instead of hitting the reply button and telling them that they're idiots because I just told them not to do that, I was like, I'm going to let it sit for 24 hours and I'm not going to respond.
Ooh, dude, I've been tested with that recently.
Of course,
like,
we all have, right?
Very, very recently. It's so funny because I caught myself responding to messages and emails when I'm like, why did I say that? I wish I could unsend it.
Yeah.
I could have given it. Those thoughts wouldn't come till maybe an hour, 2 hours later. I'm like, should have just given it time. It wasn't that big of a deal.
Count to 10, brother.
Yeah.
Count to 10.
Oh
So
my
good.
goodness, that's such great advice because no one ever told me. I wish you would have told me 3 months ago.
Right.
But I've definitely burned some boats I didn't want to burn because I was just pissed off.
Yep.
You know, and humble enough I apologized. And then I was just like, but still the words are said, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah, there's a balance to that.
Yeah.
There's a balance to being direct. And I think it's like the 10 seconds might allow you to be like, well, how would Chris Voss say this?
Right. Yeah.
And
It's
I
not
think
even
that's what
about
the pause is.
directness. It's about how
Delivery.
you deliver. Yeah, the delivery
exactly.
of it. That's the most, because you should say, if you got to say something, you got to get it off your chest. You got to say it.
Yeah.
But it's how you say it. You know,
I completely
mentor
agree.
a lot of other insurance agents that are managers in my agency, and they always tell me, Kyle, this is what I said, X, Y, Z. Did I do good? And they're like trying to have me pat them on the back, like, oh, you were so stern. Like, no, man. Now they fucking hate you.
Yeah. Right.
That's your agent, bro. You know, so I was like, just be gentle with it.
Yeah.
But I was like, your idea is correct. And I wish I had a mentor to tell me that. And kind of like you telling me now, you know, it's a good reminder for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I think I've gone through some like different sales trainings and things like that, and trying and that's been one of my challenges is being like a sales leader. It's not easy, right? Like it's one thing to go out and close a deal yourself, right? It's on you practice, you go through all this training and you read books and things like that. But getting someone else to be able to have that kind of mentality has been my biggest challenge. I have yet to succeed.
That's my arena right now, bro.
Bro, teaching. So I trained. I was training. I had sales. We had like 65 agents at one point when I was running a residential brokerage.
God bless you, sir.
And it's like, yeah, dude, I had a golden era.
Yeah.
But it was like trying to teach someone self-awareness. I think about this question a lot.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, what's the number one skill set you can curate in life? I'm like, self-awareness, I think, is like the number one.
Yeah.
Because it also comes with humility as a byproduct.
Right.
because like you have the awareness of yourself, which means you know how you operate, when the other person you're meeting, like you might be at the right time for a joke. And that's what makes the sale.
Right.
And having that awareness of like, and how to win friends and influence people and all these different contexts, but it's in the practice of meeting somebody for the first time and not being the guy that's like, here's my business card.
Right.
Like that's fucking repulsive.
Yeah.
To anybody that's doing anything worth their salt is like, they hate that.
Yeah.
And I think it comes from that knowledge, but.
Clark, when I've seen you in multiple networking events, and there's something that you really inspire me with, and this is a common denominator that everybody I look up to has. When you're in a networking event, you have success for yourself, but you never talk about it.
True.
A lot of people love to talk about themselves. How did you learn that that's the way to go? Because I've definitely made a mistake before. When I was a new salesman, I was the guy giving away business cards. And then I realized I hate the guy giving me a business card.
Yeah.
But for you, where did you kind of learn that, hey, this is how I want to present myself? Mm-hmm. Did somebody teach you how to present yourself, or did you just kind of figure it out?
So I went to sales training for 2 to 2.5 years, where I went to sales management training and sales training every Tuesday from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock. And that was one of the biggest takeaways is like, for example, it's like, what's your elevator pitch, right? Mm-hmm. And people say, well, if I'm in real estate and I've flipped houses, right? What do you do? Oh, I flip houses, right? But the only reason someone's asking you what you do is because they want to determine if it's something that can benefit them, right? That's the only reason that anyone cares about what you do. So if you just say, well, I flip houses, well, how does that help someone to do that, right? Or so it's like, let's say like I'm getting into development, right? Like I'm trying to follow in Corey's world. So if someone's like, well, what do you do? And I say, well, I'm in development. Okay, well, the conversation probably dies right there. Okay, well, what do you do? But it's like, you know what? I tend to work with clients that are busy W-2 and they don't have a lot of time to go explore other real estate routes, and they're just looking to put capital somewhere where they can get like a 10 or 12% return on the money. That's kind of who I usually work with. So it's not what do I do, it's who do I work with, right?
Totally.
Wow.
And then so being able to just reframe, not what I do, it's who I work with. Are you, and then, innately, are you one of those people that I work with? You say, well, you wouldn't happen to know anyone that is really busy. They've got family activities and soccer games every Saturday, but they've wanted to get in real estate, but they don't really know how. But they've got $100,000 sitting around that they want to deploy. That's kind of who I work with.
Wow.
Yeah, the nonchalant.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That was a master class right there. Honestly, if I had my notebook, I'd be taking notes.
That's the importance of being able to, but it's not making it about you, because then I'm not really puffing out my chest, right? To your point.
Yeah.
Oh, what do I do? Oh, I buy X amount of houses per year. Oh, I have this many rental properties, or I have this many assets under management, right? Like, how does that help anyone that you say you have got $5 million or $25 million of assets under management, right? But if it's just who you work with, then innately, subconsciously, do you want to be those people? And I remember I asked a financial advisor one time, it's like financial advisors, they go into the networking room and everyone's like, oh God, he's going to want to set up an appointment to meet with me, right? And so he shifted my narrative a little bit when he goes, I'm a financial advisor and I work with clients that have $1 million or more in net worth. Be like, well, I don't have $1 million in net worth. How do I get to go meet with you? It's just like creating that little bit of like FOMO is like, man, he only works with guys that are worth $1 million and more. Maybe he's good at what he does. Maybe I could sit down with him and he could lay out a roadmap for me to become a client in the future if I was worth $1 million or more. So just like reframing certain things is to like, just simple. You're sitting in the line at McDonald's and you're talking to someone, you're like, yeah, I work with clients that are really super busy and they want to get into real estate and they've just got some money, but they don't know how and they don't have time to go be an active operator. That's who I work with.
Dude, that's the perfect elevator pitch,
That's it.
Super casual and it's not salesy.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. I mean, I hear some like Hormozy in your teachings too just now. It's like, never ask for the sale, ask for a referral.
Right.
And you'll get a lot of sales doing that. But I love that because there's two things that type of answer does. Oh, or the two different types of answer. The first one, talking about yourself, all that does is stroke your ego and make people get annoyed at you. The other one gives you the opportunity to form a relationship and make a lot of fucking money.
Yeah. Amen.
And it's like,
both those are good.
I'll go for number two all day. I don't need to stroke my ego.
Right.
If you are confident enough in your success and the evidence you've built up for yourself, your ego is good, man. Like
Yeah.
you're fine. You're right. If you're a man and your bills are paid and the other man you're talking to whose bills are paid, I think it's equal game at that point. Let's just help each other out. Let's collaborate, right?
It speaks for itself, right?
Yeah.
It's like if I'm 6'5", right? If I walk into a room, I don't need to tell someone I'm 6'5", right? They can clearly see it, right? It's obvious,
gotta
right?
say it.
So it's like if like you have a really successful insurance company, right? And so it's like I already know that, you know. So like so being able to walk, you know, to talk to people and just walk the walk instead of talking the talk. Like if you're successful, you don't, you know, the walking does all the talking for you. You know?
I want to share with you a story that reminded me, and Corey, I know you would appreciate this. Joe Basso, he's the CEO of the brokerage my agency is a part of, a very successful man. And when I was looking for a brokerage to partner with, I got on a call with him. He like the recruiting game in the sales world is really important, right? And he recruited me in a snap of a finger. And here's the reason. A lot of insurance guys are flashing their paychecks. Yeah, you know, one sale can make you a shit ton of money.
Right.
We all know that, and you get paid the next day. But he didn't show me a single paycheck. And I asked him at the end of the call, I was like, Joe, how come, you know, when you recruit, you don't show paychecks? He was like, because you know I'm rich.
Yeah.
he was like, why do I have to prove myself? You're the one that asked for this meeting.
Right.
And I was like, fair enough.
Yeah.
You know, and all you see on his Instagram, which by the way, I'm mimicking more of what Joe is because I really look up to him.
Sure.
Like I used to flash the cars, the watches, and all because that's what everyone in the industry does.
Yeah.
But I'm like, dude, this guy's going on mission trips.
Yeah.
He's posting his kid watching in his in-home movie theater. Like there's ways to flex that you got money without being annoying. Yeah. And I love that because like you said, you don't have to flaunt it.
Yeah.
If it's true, people know.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about, you know, what you emulate, what he emulates. And that's something everything I am, I tell people, it's not actually me. I'm not that great of a person. It's just a reflection of every great people I've met. And I take a little, I like that about Clark. I like that about Corey, you know, because I've learned a lot from Corey too, you know? So it's just a little bits and pieces. That's why in the arena, having people like you here, dude, I'm so grateful for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we definitely got to talk more because I know we talk every quarter of the year or something.
Yeah. It's like a quarterly check-in.
Yeah, it's a quarterly check-in pretty much.
Yeah, and that's something I appreciate. I met you after we did that Infinite Real Estate, you know, I did like speaking engagement, and we talked after, and the first thing I noticed, I was like, this dude's authentic.
Yeah.
This dude's like real. And I was excited to have this talk one of these days.
Yeah.
So appreciate you coming on. So we're at the top of the hour. Sure. But in the wrapping question, given what you know now, with in life, what would you tell yourself with the last time you burned your boats when in your arena? Like how would you kind of coach your past self to be jumping into that next arena?
Yeah.
What's the goal that you got from that? Like what do you want to say to the people?
I think that being able to stay more consistent with a plan. Like my problem is that I have like shiny red ball syndrome. So I do this, it's the flavor of the day. And I think a lot of people run into that same issue, but being able to write something down and carry it through. And it's harder now than ever. Corey and I were talking about this offline, is like, it's so easy to get distracted now. You've got all these different things and it could be stupid stuff that kills brain cells like social media and stuff, but it could also be like another business opportunity. Or I think a lot of business owners get into something where, essentially they've got their core business, right? And in all reality, what I've seen is that when people start other complementary businesses, it's not necessarily having additional streams of income. It's actually just because their core business isn't successful enough. So they're like, let me go start some other side stuff to fill that in. Now you're just diluting yourself. You're looking over there at the hot girl over there and then the hot girl over there, and you're not focused on what's in front of you. And I think that is something that I'm trying my best so hard, and it's still not easy to not look at that duplex down the road that's a really good deal, right? I'm like, I need to make sure that what got me here, buying the duplex, I'll use that as an example, won't get me to where I want to go. So I'm trying to keep blinders on like I'm a freaking horse in a horse race to say, okay, I'm going to grow a plumbing company and I'm going to build into developing, right? So I get that real estate itch that I need to scratch always because it's built into my DNA. Anything else that doesn't fall in those two buckets, I don't want to do, right? So I'm saying this because I'm giving the advice to myself. every single minute of every single day because it's hard not to do that. But I would say that being able to just stay singularly focused on one or two very focused things without having to go start other things or spend your time on things that just aren't self-serving for those. That's where it's at, guys.
Dude, that's powerful. I want to wrap up with one more question, but real quick, that shiny red ball syndrome, is that what you call it?
Lady in the red dress.
Lady in the red dress.
So
we
good.
had the Crown and Ash November meeting, and everyone's talking about crypto, and I'm like, dude, I'm about to dump my whole account on crypto.
Right.
And I'm like, but it makes me want to do it.
Yeah.
But I need to focus, and I'll put a little bit in there, right? Because I learned something, and I don't want to miss out on an opportunity. But I want to end this episode with, and I want you to think about this. You could take a second. That advice you gave of consistency and discipline and putting the blinders on, instead of just saying that, can you give the viewers and myself and Corey actual practical advice on how to keep those blinders on? What are you doing to actually keep it on?
So I think that's a great point, and it'll force me. I'm gonna go home tonight and write down what
That's
I
part
think
about podcasting.
Yeah,
you want to live it,
right? So I can't just bullshit you and say, oh, this is what you should do, and then I just go back and go look at a bunch of shiny red balls bouncing all over the place.
I have to put you on the spot.
Just back to scrolling. So what am I going to do? Because I haven't really done it, but what I'm going to do is, and it's something I've tried before and I've failed, is to physically write down time blocking. And that's one of my biggest challenges, is to say, okay, from 8 to 9, I'm going to do this. From 9 to 11, I'm going to do this. And I don't care what comes in, what email comes in, what phone call comes in. If it's not related to that one thing that I'm focused on, they can wait till 9:30 to get that call back, right? And so I'm going to take this time that we've spent here, and I'm going to literally go home, because I know exactly what I want now, right? It's taken me the last 2 years of freedom of career to figure out what the hell I want to be when I grow up, right? And I think that I've got it. And I know that the more that I can focus on it, the better I'll be, and the quicker I'll get to my goal, and the quicker I'll make failures and fail forward and all the things that you hear about. And so writing down my day and freaking following it is what I have to do. So time blocking, but physically writing it down, and I need to put it above my desk so that it's staring me in the physical. Yeah, like literally write it down, not on an iPad, not on my MacBook. It's going to be an old school, like just print it out to where it says, Clark, this is what you need to do to be successful. And it's this many calls between 8 to 9, this, asset management from 9 to 10. So that's what I'm going to do. So I appreciate you asking that question, because now I have to actually do it.
Oh yeah, it's recorded.
Yeah, it's recorded. Yeah.
That is the number one. If you ask any entrepreneur like how you did it, like the number one thing is like have a singular focus.
Yep.
Be like a pinpoint versus a hammer.
Yeah.
So it's like just hammering that. And then also the time blocking. It's like the fifth time. And like I keep trying to get a grasp on the time blocking, and I just keep getting derailed. But it is such a truth.
Yeah.
You have to, and I'm gonna order a whiteboard as soon as we leave here as I'm driving out.
I do have my whiteboard.
I need a physical.
Yeah.
I keep doing it electronically, and I think that's why it's slipping. I
only take notes in like 6 different applications on my Apple Notes or in Google Drive. They're all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm with you. So yeah, guys. I mean, this has been great. I love what you guys stand for in terms of in the arena, because this climate that we're in right now is 2009, in my opinion. Like this,
wow.
When we were in 2009, everyone's like, oh, I should have done this in 2009 and 10. And it's like, yeah, but you didn't. Why? Because it wasn't super confident to go out. There was risk in 2009. Looking back, you're like, oh, I should have bought 50 units in 2009 and I'd be retired right now. I feel like we have those same feelings right now, where it is risky to go out there because you don't know what the future is going to be. Is it going to go up? Is it going to go down? So being in the arena, you meet contacts, right? You're getting practice swings of the plate. I'm underwriting all the time. So when the right opportunity does come along, people are going to take me seriously. Brokers are actually going to send me stuff to look at on the development side. So now is the time to get your ass in the arena if you're on the sideline. And even if you're not like creating a deal today for whatever that is that you are telling the world, you're telling everyone around you, whether it's on social media, whether it's the title company, the broker, the business broker, whoever it is, I'm here, and please, keep me at the top of your Rolodex. You're not going to do that sitting on the sidelines. So,
oof, I love that, bro. I'm fired up. I want to actually get out of here and make some money.
That's good, man.
Clark, I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, thanks for keeping it real, man. That's the only thing. That's why we're doing this. This is why it's not just like a business podcast talking about the technicals of real estate and life insurance. I'm like, no, like
we definitely
talk about real shit, real experience, and like that's where the gold's at.
We got to get you back. I feel like this is we got to continue the
well,
conversation.
now I got to come back and tell you that I actually time blocked.
Exactly.
So I owe that to you guys. Thanks
Cool.
a lot.
I
Guys.
appreciate
Thank
it,
you.
bro.